Alright guys, this is Captain Alex Mason here, and this video is going to, or at least I'm going to try and be brief about it. As you know, it is May 16th, and that is the official release that the Zombie Chronicles DLC is supposed to be released for PlayStation 4 users. Well, here's what we found out about it. Now, you can go to Mr. Darlik JD's channel, or Mr. Raffle Waffles, or any of the bigger zombie channels for this information. They go into more detail than I am going through right now. But they've added some new radios, some new Easter eggs to some of the classic maps like Ascension, Shinonuma, probably everyone if I'm not mistaken, or I doubt they wouldn't leave it out in any of the other maps if they're going to put it in 3 so far. Anyway, along with that, they've also released the official timeline, which actually gives us dates now as to when certain maps take place, and the events leading up to said maps that you play in eventually. They also give you alternate realities, like saying, for instance, in one dimension, World War II is still ongoing, even beyond the Second World War, although I don't like to see it that way because, well, even when the war ended, there were still plenty of Nazis who still fought like the war was still going on, so that could be a possibility. But not only that, but they have also revealed a lot of information, as in, like, what every character is now. For instance, let's talk about the Pentagon Thief, because when I got this far, trying to scan the timeline, which, by the way, was a very, very, what do you call it? Time straining or whatever. It was painful to go through that because they were basically all these different circles all overlapping each other, and it just was really hard to follow, especially with this little magnifying glass on your laptop. Anyway, but one of the things I came across was that they said something about Yuri. I don't remember his last name, but he was part of the Ascension group, and what he did was he put Gersh in one of the dimensions, trapping him with Samantha, and then Samantha basically corrupted Yuri and then sent Yuri to the Pentagon. He is, no doubt in my mind, the Pentagon Thief. And I just was, like, blown away by this. It's like, wow. And I'm thinking to myself, that actually explains a lot. Which, for the record, the other interesting thing about it was, okay, so he was part of the Ascension group, which was a communist group trying to create Soviet rockets and also experimenting with element 115. Well, his character skin, or character model, I should say, was a reused version of Daniel Clark's from the Black Ops campaign, who was also working on an Ascension project for the communists during the Cold War, which kind of explained it a lot. And he is also working with numbers, but not in the same way. But the other thing was, now this was just recently, again, suggest you see Mr. Darlik JD's video on this. There's a newly added radio to Ascension that explains about that mysterious bald man in the Ascension poster. That is in fact Dr. Gersh. And if this was not known yet already, I'm saying it now, and I'm blown away by this. Well, actually, I wouldn't say I was blown away by it, but it was like, kind of figured he would be, I don't know. But, yeah, so we've now got 2 characters from the original Zombies timelines and stuff that we can now add a face to, because the other ones to this, still remain unsolved. We don't even know what Sophia looked like before she was put in that giant machine. But I guess we don't necessarily need to now because, well, we know what she looks like as a machine, but if people want to, I guess that's something to look forward to in the future. But, kind kind of waiting on what the Zombies comics will be like, because I'm pretty sure there's still one left if I'm not mistaken, but again, I could be wrong. But it's really interesting to see exactly what happened. We also found out when the Flesh group originated. We found out when all the other maps take place. We found out what Broken Arrow was and who formed it, and it was actually a U.S. government project, basically the American version of Group 935, Division 9, and the Ascension Group all together. Because, again, they also wanted to experiment with 115, and they wanted to know if they could weaponize it. And then it backfires on them, and then even they wanted to create their own undead army. Again, backfired. Just like all the other factions that tried doing it, but didn't stop them from doing it anyways. I'm going to say I really like the fact that they put this in, because now we can actually add dates to it, which I was kind of hoping they'd do from the start, because I don't like trying to figure out, you know, when it's supposed to take place on my own, because excuse me, it's really hard to figure that out, and then you don't want to be like painstakingly looking through all that information, and then something like this happens, and now you're like, oh, I've got to change everything now that I put on this timeline. Which, yeah, I have to do that now because the information has changed. Which, I'm kind of, you know, bitter about it, but, you know, it's not something, it's not entirely impossible. I just need to change certain dates around, but, yeah, that's the thing. Doesn't necessarily explain, though, certain events that transpired, but, you know, I'm okay with it. Like, for instance, the one thing that kind of was weird for me, although the only reason I could say that this could, like, any evidence saying that this is what the environment was when you play Origins, and yes, it's about Origins, apparently, according to this book, or according to the official timeline, that takes place in June, I think, 4th of 1918, but it's snowing. And the only explanation I have for it is probably because, oh, well, it's the 63rd dimension, so... And, you know, you see a bunch of rifts everywhere, so maybe that's why all the crazy weather's starting to show up? I don't know. That, plus, you know, you've got the 4 elemental staff, so that could be a contributor to the weird anomaly that is the weather, Not necessarily, I'm not quite sure, though, if this means that they, like, in the normal timeline, participated in World War I as well. Because there are so many things that were different compared to the original timeline. Like, for instance, the dates for when Group 935 was actually established, like, one was, like, prior, I think, to 1914. Maybe even during 1914. I'm not entirely sure. And then one was, like, when, like, prior to World War II starting, but in, like, the 30s. Again, it's really complicated, and I can't even... I'm not even going to pretend I know how to explain it, but, you know, they also finally explained as to why the B-17 Flying Fortress crashed in Nachterantoten, which, honestly, not what I was expecting, but that does make sense now. So they were supposed to be landing, and all of a sudden a group of scientists, or Group 935, was transporting undead specimens, and, you know, they had armed guards with them, and they were both crossing at the same time, and pilot crashed right into their convoy, and then the zombies got loose and then infected all the surviving troops. And the Marines were supposed to hold out there for as long as they possibly can. Why they went in there, I have no idea, but this is like during World War II, so World War II had not, if I'm not mistaken, hasn't quite, or at this time, did not end yet, but it did end for Nazi Germany. But the one question still remains is, if that's the case, why were the Marines there? Because the Marines have only been seen in the Pacific Theater during World War II. But then again, this is also an OSS, like, op, So, and the OSS recruited everyone from any branch of any country at this time. So it could be a possibility they were there on an OSS mission, but that still remains to be known as to what that mission was. I originally thought that it was, Dempsey's group, which it was still, were to basically try and make it to extract Peter McCain. However, but when their plane crashed, they had to hold out until dawn before they could head into Berlin and into the Wittenau Sanatorium, which is in Pankow. Pankow is actually kind of like a province or a district area, which I didn't know until after researching it more. So that means the asylum from World at War's campaign is also the same asylum, which I did not know until recently. But yeah, that's the thing now. It's just a lot of information to take in. And if you haven't seen it or know where you can find it, I suggest you look at it as soon as you can. The wiki has kind of updated it a bit. However, they don't have exactly every piece of information down just yet. They're still kind of working out the kinks a bit, but hopefully sooner or later they will have an official one. Like, they will have the official stuff down in their timeline soon. They did manage to get some of the dates right, like, the year-wise, but some they were not lucky enough to actually get. And, well, that remains to be seen, but we now know what we are to do and basically play till we drop, basically. That being said, I'm Captain Alex Mason, and I will see you guys with the next video.